Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yeah. Can we give another hand to Reverend Luke Higuchi? I think many of you may not know this, but yeah, he's been out on campus multiple times, just asking and seeking people to sign these petitions, working very hard day and night. And also to all of our members here who have been going out, witnessing and sharing this. I saw Dr. Compton on campus just on Friday, actually doing the same thing. So let's all just thank everyone who's been working on this thing. Yeah. And also, I think something major that happened, I don't think it was mentioned yet, but just this week, the 40-day workshop just concluded. This is the second 40-day workshop here in America, and it was quite amazing, the testimonies from each and every one. So can we just give a hand to them and also the organizing team and the Chonchimon? So as many of you know, usually when I come up here to speak, there are just some smaller things that inspire me during the week I like to share. So first, this week, very abruptly, on Friday night, a guest couldn't come, so I ran to the movies to watch a specific movie at that time. Let me just put it on here. It's called Naza 2. And you may be wondering, what is this? So this is a Chinese movie, and what's significant about this movie? Basically, I saw a news that a new Chinese movie called Naza 2 has broken the record for the highest grossing animated film of all time. Right? I think this is coming in. Is it coming in and out? It is, okay. So I'll resort to this if it stops. So basically, that was interesting. So I looked into it a little bit, and I realized it's currently grossing over $2 billion. Over $2 billion. So it's the sixth highest grossing film of all time. And the highest, number one ranked animated film. So when I looked into it, I realized, actually, over 2 billion of that amount comes from China, right? Chinese watching that video. And so to me, watching the movie, so it just amazed me what we can achieve just by uniting, just coming together. Because historically, the Chinese government had limited foreign movies, and especially during the Chinese New Year. And so what happened is that during Chinese New Year, this was the movie that came out, so everybody was watching it in the country. And so that was quite amazing, kind of a testament to unity, which will be the conclusion of my sermon today. So I just wanted to mention that. And also, just yesterday, I've been participating in a basketball league with some of our other second generations within the community. And it's been going on since the end of January. And yesterday we had our final game, and we won. We won, so I just wanted to share that. That was a big... Yeah, some of you may know, Oichi here, who comes to church. Okay, I think they're currently doing some training or recovering from last night. But just wanted to share that as well because it was a big victory for us. So today's message, I'd like to speak on something that inspired me this week, and the theme of which I titled, "Let Us Have Faith." Faith is so interesting. There's some mystery to faith. And actually, last week Sunday, I went out witnessing on campus, and I met this young brother named Ben Davis. And Ben is very intellectual. Ben is a neuroscience major and also a philosophy minor. Ben is currently taking a theory of knowledge class. Ben questions many things he comes across. But Ben is very open-minded. Ben wants to believe in God, but hasn't found enough evidence in his life to believe in God. So I talked with Ben for about 3 hours. And I met him again and talked for another 3 hours. He's so interesting. I learned so much just from talking to him. And he's actually very open. But it led me to a very important tenet of the life that we live. Because Ben is looking for evidence of a supernatural. Actually, he had just this January, he was at the gym, and as he was lifting weights, one moment his body just stopped. And what he describes is, it's almost like something came out of him and he could see himself, and he couldn't move his body. And and he described another experience of when he was younger, when his cat passed away. One moment he was outside and he just saw his cat looking at him, right? So Ben is no stranger to unique, you could say, unexplained circumstances or scenarios. So I asked Ben, what did you think of that? And he said, I don't know. But I'm sure if we understand the brain enough, it'll be able to explain it. He's a neuroscience major. But Ben also finds it fascinating about astral projection, right? When people's spirits leave or souls leave the body. That's why I find Ben very interesting. He wants to believe. He wants to believe, but he hasn't found, without a shadow of a doubt, that God exists. So I asked him and he's prayed, right? I've heard his testimony from Dr. Compton about praying and asking God to show himself to you, and he's done that. And he said that he just didn't experience anything. So I asked him, he had that experience of, you could say, an out-of-body experience, and also seeing if cats have souls, So I asked him, what if God just appeared to you right now? Would you believe in God? And he just sat down and thought for a moment. And he says, I don't know. I don't know whether to trust. It's hard to trust that is not just my mind. That is not something that is a phenomena that is fully and could be explained by the functions of our brain. So then I realized he was looking for proof, but even the heavens coming down may not be enough proof. So then it just scaled me back to the topic that I'd like to talk about today is, why do we believe what we believe? And what is it that we may be missing in search of God? And the answer to that fundamentally is, any belief in any relationship with God has to have faith. It's not a belief of overwhelming evidence. And sure, you could argue a case that there's overwhelming evidence of God's existence, but it requires faith. And faith is much deeper than we know. I'm going to be meeting Ben again, not next week, but the week after. He's reading Proof of Heaven, which I'm sending him. But it got me to the question of, what is faith? Fundamentally, what is faith? And I went to Google. And Google describes faith it says a complete trust or confidence in someone or something. Makes sense. The second says a strong belief in God or in the doctrines of a religion based on spiritual apprehension rather than proof. So, many of us may have been led to believe that faith is, blind belief without evidence. But it's much, much, much deeper than that. It's a relationship of trust. It's a conviction that opens our hearts to spiritual truths before our minds can fully comprehend it. And when you think about it, it's kind of basic to human understanding. If you believe, then it comes to be, right? So in one sense, at some point, someone had to believe that you could control a PowerPoint with a clicker. Without that belief, without that faith, it never happens. It never materializes, right? So on a fundamental level, faith makes a lot of sense. In the Bible, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Hebrews 11:1. The confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. So why is this relevant? Why is faith relevant? I believe that fundamentally in our lives, this is something that we all need to live, to fully understand who we are, and to be able to delve deeper into this other realm that God has made known to us. And it's not Christian community is not the only community that believes in faith. Actually, it's quite universal. Many of you may know about Kundalini awakening in Hindu. So in Hindu, there are the seven stages of awakening, right? So some of you may remember it as chakras. And it talks about different levels of consciousness. So at the base, at the bottom, you have survival. That's right at the bottom there. Your instinct is to survive. It's security. You go a step higher, it's creativity. You have more freedom to express. And when you go up to the third level, responsibility, right? And then, however, there's a certain limit, a cap. They talk about the fifth stage, that is at the throat, and that is where people they express empathy, express compassion, and they strive towards greater compassion and empathy. Like someone who is a peacemaker in the world, someone who wants to be the president of a country, to make the world a better place. Someone who is going out there every single day doing their best. That's, you could say, level 5 within Kundalini awakening. But the interesting thing is, there is level 6, and that's right there. And if you ask any Hindu priest, essentially, how do you get to level 6? Level 6 is where you are transcendent. In one sense, it's the beginning of this resonance with all things. You could describe it as spiritual awakening. And it's described as you almost have to fall into the abyss of emptiness. There is no just cultivation. It's the dark in which you have to take a leap of faith in. So it's interesting. That is the stage that we will describe. It's the awakening, and the awakening happens when we take a leap of faith into the unknown. And that's also very common in Buddhist tradition, right? In the Enlightenment, requires letting go of attachments to even certain understandings. So this is something that's shared amongst many different faiths. A common example or description of faith by Jesus comes from the story of the doubting Thomas, right? If you may not know the story, Thomas, when Jesus resurrected on the third day, he appeared to the disciples of Jesus. He appeared to the disciples, and in a room, the disciples saw him, but Thomas was not there. So the disciples told Thomas that they met the Lord, but Thomas said he will not believe it until he has put his finger through the wounds of Jesus, right? The stab and the holes on Jesus' hand. So 1 week later, Jesus appeared. The disciples are gathered again, and Jesus appears to the disciples. And Jesus goes up to Thomas and shows him his wounds and puts Thomas's hand, as you can see in that picture, into the stab on his chest. Then, what did Jesus say? She said it. This is John 20:29. He said,
Thomas, you have seen me, and you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and have yet believed. So, in this context, Jesus is talking about how deep and how important it is for us to have faith. That there is blessing, tremendous grace. There's so much more in the unseen of life. And that when we can step into that, when we can allow ourselves to not know everything, allow ourselves to relish in the unknown, which is the love, the grace of God, then we have so much more we can experience. It's an essential part of faith. And he also talks about the faith of a mustard seed. He said the faith of the mustard seed moves mountains. So, in any case, in all situations, faith is so important. We need to be able to have faith. We need to be able to cultivate it, because without it, there is nothing. There is nothing without faith. And this is described in the miracles that Jesus performed. I put this up here. Last night I had a conversation with Jonathan, and we talked about magic versus miracles. What's the difference between magic and miracles? Anyone want to take a guess out of that? What's magic? It says smoke and mirrors. So I used to do magic all the time. I used to live in New York City, so I'd go through the subway station and just do magic to people. And essentially, I mean, magic is trickery, right? I know that it's not magic, right? But those who are witnessing it, what I'm selling is the illusion of magic, in a sense. However, miracles are different. Can you have miracles without faith? No. It's impossible for miracles to happen without faith. Someone at least have to have faith in order for a miracle to happen. And let's look at the story of Peter. In the Bible, right? Jesus goes out and tells the disciples to meet him. What happens is that it's a stormy, the seas are stormy. They're going, and then they see Jesus in the distance. They call out to Jesus, and then Jesus asks Peter to come to him. Then Peter starts walking, right? He starts walking to the Lord, to God, to Jesus. Then all of a sudden, the winds got stronger. And what happens after that? He starts to sink. He starts to sink, and Jesus holds him. And what did Jesus say after that? That's it. You of little faith, why did you doubt? Walking on water is, to say the least, a miracle. But the story tells of a miracle that happened because of the absolute faith that a disciple of Jesus had. But that miracle shattered when that faith was gone. And you will read time and time again in the miracles of Jesus, he talks about faith. When he healed the blind beggar, he says, your faith has made you well. Right? He didn't say, I have made you well. He didn't say that God has made you well. He said, your faith has made you well. And then there were two other blind people he healed, and he said, according to your faith be it unto you. We talk within our movement about our portion of responsibility. That God has the 95 and we have the 5. But it is so critical that within that 5, we have faith. Because that is what will move the mountains. That is what will allow us to feel God's tremendous blessings and grace within our lives. So, true faith doesn't mean we never have questions. Rather, it means we continue to trust and follow even when we don't have all the answers. And faith has got us this far. And faith will get us to many more places. So I know at this time things are a bit uncertain around the world. There's the invasion of Ukraine and many different civil wars happening. There's concerns about government and what government's doing. Concerns about spirituality. And it may seem like we're in dark times. Even within our movement, there is uncertainty about what is being taught, for example. There's uncertainty about where we're going. Are we doing the right thing? Are we headed in the right direction? Are we on the right track? And that makes sense. It makes sense to have that doubt, to have that uncertainty, because things are admittedly a little bit different than what they used to be. What we may have understood, we're asked to relearn, to recontextualize, and that'll help us be able to move forward. But yet still, it makes sense to be doubtful. It makes sense to worry, because many of us, many of our membership around the world, join this movement for the greater good. Join this movement because you want to make the world a better place. So it's sincere to be able to feel that way. But I'd like to tell you a story of a lady I knew who passed away in 2020. Her name was Maria Vargas. Some of you may know her. And when I was around 17, 18, 19, she'd always come around. I was that young guy who, whenever anybody asked to help out with stuff, I was like, yeah, why not? Why not? I was always just moving around with her, helping out. She was the executive director of UPF within the New York region. And I'd help out with many things, and usually I'm just there to help, and we don't talk too much. However, there was one occasion which I didn't know would be the last time we would meet. We were in the Tudor House of East Garden. We were preparing for an event quite early in the morning, and she tells me, Resfred, there's something I'd like to share with you. Something that I've learned from working with Reverend Jenkins. And she said, over the past 40 or so years that I've been a part of this movement, within leadership, there's always struggles of unity. But what she's come to realize is that above everything, unity is most important. That when she unites with Reverend Jenkins, who was the national leader, things move forward. Because when you have two different parties working at two different things, not working together, what happens is conflict. And unfortunately, we're not able to advance. We're not able to move as fast as we could. But if we can trust in the goodness of the other, that we're working towards one direction, we're working towards one goal, then if anyone can choose to unite, we'll be able to get there. So Maria tells me that, and in the moment I think, okay, interesting. But as the years have gone by, I realize how profound that is. Unity is so important. Because if we can trust that we are heading towards the same goal, then why not just work together? And sometimes it takes letting go of our concepts, letting go of our plan, letting go of what we think is the right way, the most effective way. And it takes that letting go to allow us to move forward. And so we're at this critical juncture within our movement where so much is happening and so much could happen, but perhaps what may be limiting this blessing, this expansion, this leap towards the realization of much more, what may be limiting us is our faith. And so, we as a civilization have come this far believing, have come this far because we held on to something, because we believed that the world could be better, because we stepped out into the unknown and trusted. So at this time, even though things may be confusing, things may not be so clear, I'd like to implore each and every one of us to step out in faith, trusting that God is working, trusting that wherever we go, whatever we're doing, that God is with us. Because it is that faith, I know things are so unclear, but it is that faith that will set the condition of victory. Not knowing, that's what's going to get us there to the finish line. It's the faith of the disciples after the Pentecost that led Christianity to blossom. We need faith. If the disciples had judged Jesus by the contemporary definition of the King of Kings within the political context of the Jews, there is no Messiah. And so, let us step out in faith. Let us step out into, for some, and for maybe all of us, the unknown. And when we do that and unite together, there'll be greater victory. We could be the #1 grossing movie of all time. So, God has so much in store for us. God has planned so much for us. And that gate opens up when we allow ourselves to step into that. So let us have faith, and through that faith, let us become the people God has called us to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor Resfred.